every other day we hear of reports and stories, data that comes in that show economic indicators are improving. People's lives are possibly improving after the coronavirus pandemic and how it has wrecked the global economy and upended millions of lives. We have reports of more cars being sold, restaurants filling up to some extent, clothes being bought online, and other such indicators. But the question is the improvement even? Did coronavirus impact everyone the same, and hence is everyone recovering the same? The answer is clearly no. But how stark that difference is has been highlighted in the Oxfam report. Now, this is an annual report which comes out on the eve of the Davos conference, and this year round they've called it the virus of inequality. Some of the facts that they've put out in this report are truly startling. For example, the wealth of Indian billionaires went up by 35% during lockdown and is up 90% in fact since 2009. The fortunes of India's 100 billionaires are up nearly 13 lakh crore rupees since March. Meanwhile, around 24% of Indians were earning under 3,000 rupees a month during lockdown. There's more and more statistics like that, and you'll see that on your screen. And it really shows how vast that chasm is between the rich and the poor, and how something like a pandemic and the lockdown that followed had such different impacts on different people's lives. To speak more on this, I'm joined today by Amitabh Behar, who's the CEO of Oxfam India. Now remember, this is a global report and puts out data from all over the world. We're focusing for this interview on the data that has come out for India specifically, and talks about what Indians and a large percentage of Indians have gone through. Amitabh, welcome to the show, and thank you for speaking with us here at ET Now. Were you surprised by the findings of this report? Because I know the inequality report comes out, very often. But this time, were you surprised by what a differentiated impact something like COVID-19 had on different strata of society?
I was not surprised. Intuitively, we have known this, but I must say I was quite saddened. And I think that the title of the report is very apt, where we are saying that the inequality virus is probably as deadly as the COVID-19 virus. You talked of several figures. Let me just add one more to give you the global dimension to it. During the pandemic, the top 10 billionaires actually added $500 billion to their wealth. And on the other hand, 1,000 top billionaires actually recovered all the losses. So they did incur some losses. But every estimate, every study, the World Bank including, says that the poor will take more than a decade to recover. You've already talked of the India statistics, but again, this one statistics from India, I think that's really startling. That the wealth that the top 11 billionaires made in India during the pandemic is actually good enough to sustain NREGA for 10 years or sustain the health ministry for 10 years. So that's the level of disparity that we are seeing. Startling, shocking in terms of the numbers that you're looking at, but it points at a deep systemic crisis that we live in.
Amitabh, truly, you're right. The numbers are shocking. It shows that there is a huge difference in an inequality, really, income inequality. But I question what can be done about it. Now, some of the things that you have prescribed in this report, among others, is an increase of wealth tax on the creamy layer or the richest people in the country. Another one talks about a COVID-19 tax of 4% on those making more than 10 lakh rupees of taxable income a year. Now, I would question this in return, that there is a huge section of India which is struggling to get out from, poverty and into what they think is middle class. Is that the section which must be taxed? is it going to be sort of a hammer on the head of those who are trying to escape poverty and have done better for themselves because of the sheer dint of hard work?
So, Tamanna, let me say that one, this is not going to be unique. Already several countries have started working on it. Argentina has already put in a wealth tax, particularly around COVID. The point that you're making is absolutely right, that this is not about the ones who are just getting out of poverty, but we are talking about the super rich. I think that's something that we need to focus on, and it's going to be a very different story. As in, our report in many ways again says that please don't look at the number of billionaires as a sign of economic success. It's actually a sign of failure of the economic system. And let me say that inequality is not inevitable, and we need to look at ways of addressing it. So this is not about people who are struggling to get food to their table or get a decent life. This is about people who
but the reason I ask, when you say 10 lakh rupees per annum, Amitabh, when you say 10 lakh rupees per annum, they may not be people who are struggling to put 2 square meals together, but they're definitely not the super rich either. So where do you draw that line? And wouldn't you agree that in this country already, with your basic taxes plus all of your cesses, the upper echelons are taxed at around 35% as it is, which is pretty high by all global standards?
Let me just give you a different statistics for that. Look at what is the tax GDP ratio in this country. We are just around, we are below 10%. And if you look at the OECD average, that's 34%. If you look at even our BRIC peers, it's way higher than us. So if I remember correctly, Brazil is somewhere around 24%, South Africa is 18%. So, what is critical is that we need to ensure that the government has the resources to invest in inequality busting policies. And inequality is not inevitable. It is a policy choice. So we are looking at a whole range of suggestions. One of the suggestions is taxing the super rich. The second suggestion is investing in issues which lead to an equal society. So particularly investing in education and health. We are talking of ensuring a minimum wage, a living wage for everyone. Tamanna, we've seen what happened during the pandemic. Post-pandemic, we've seen the hardship, the heart-wrenching stories of what people went through. And it could be a matter of discussion whether it's 10 lakhs or it should be slightly higher. But in this country, where just 10 years ago, Arjun Sen Gupta committee was saying that 78% of Indian people live with less than 20 rupees. We even now, probably according to the government estimates, we've not got poverty figures. We'll probably still have 20% to 25% living below poverty line. I think it's important to, completely change the focus and focus on the poor and questioning this inequality.
Yeah. No, Amitabh, the reason I'm having this discussion with you is because I think the end goal is something that everyone agrees upon. It will not be a healthy society if there is such a huge income disparity. You have to lift everyone up. I question the approach and saying necessarily that being a billionaire is bad or having made money during the pandemic is evil in some way. We have stories upon stories of young entrepreneurs. The whole Indian startup space is testimony to it, who have become very rich overnight by the dint of their hard work, their vision, and because they had great ideas. I fear for an outlook which paints that as villainous.
Tamanna, I would very strongly disagree with an economic system which rewards one person, our richest man, with 90 crores for every 1 hour of work. And on the other hand, somebody who gets a minimum wage would need 10,000 years to be able to make that kind of money. So there is, it is absolutely all right, and it's good to have people be rewarded for their genius. But this is a rigged economic system which is tilted in favor of the rich and the super rich. We are questioning the systemic imbalance, and we are not talking about individuals. Individuals have a right to earn money, and they must earn money. But the fundamental point is it's an unequal system, and where it is so rigged in favor of, it's also, if you just look at the global list, it's rigged in favor of men. It is rigged in favor of overwhelmingly white men. So these are the inequalities that we are questioning, which must become central to any policy framework when we move ahead.
Agreed, absolutely. I agree with you on that. That inequality must be, and reducing that gap must be at the center frame of policies and decision making. Perhaps there could be different paths to reach it. I'm not too sure if taxing further on an already small base is the answer. We have to widen the tax base. We have to make sure that there is a standard living wage which is paid, which could give a decent quality of life. But thank you for speaking with us, Amitabh, and thank you for this report, which really highlights the inequalities that have been amplified because of COVID-19.
Thank you.